Welcome to Koala Gardens. I'm Katrina and I've got a real treat for you today. But I want to start by giving a huge shout out to my newest patron, Luke Mustian. Thank you so much for joining me. Luke works with koalas down in South Australia. How exciting! And I also want to give the biggest shout out of thanks to Richard Van Dort, Rich in Alaska, who jumped in and gave me a huge helping hand when all of a sudden I had to have some big repairs done on the quad bike. Now, all of my video on YouTube is always completely free, but if you want to become part of the family and get in and give some support, there's lots of links for great ways to get involved in the description below. Now, I put a big message out on social media a little while ago asking everybody to give me their top reasons why we should save koalas. I collated all of those reasons, ran a big poll with over 250 votes to decide on the top 10 reasons. It was so much fun. I then researched everything behind all of those and released nearly a 1.5 hour documentary on the top 10 reasons to save koalas, and it was so popular that a lot of teachers said they would love to be able to use it in schools, but that it was too big as an entire thing. So I am now breaking this up into shorter videos, giving one reason at a time, and sometimes I might even break that into a couple of videos on one reason, because some of them became quite deep, especially the very top reasons. So we are today looking at the top reason to save koalas. Now, you've heard me say so many times that everything is connected, and it truly is. So let's think about how connected everything is as we look at the top reason. Before I give that reason, I want to acknowledge the Widjabul Waiable people of the Bundjalung Nation, on whose land I am so proud to be able to live with these amazing koalas. The top reason that we came up with for saving koalas is that protecting koala habitat means protecting forests, which means we would be able to slow or even reverse climate change. So there you are. Koalas are the saviours of the whole world if we will just save them. Let's deep dive a little bit into pulling that statement apart. Koalas are arboreal animals and are an important part of the forest ecosystem they live in. So that means the only way that we can actually save koalas from extinction in the wild is to preserve and increase their native habitat. We all know that climate change is happening all around the globe, and there are three main causes. Number one, burning fossil fuels. Number two, cutting down trees. And number three, the farming of livestock. In Australia, our own coal resources are generating the majority of the electricity that we are using here domestically. So you can say that there is a clear link to koala extinction in those three main causes of climate change, and I want to break each one of them down a little bit, thinking about their impact on koala habitat. Koala habitat is being cleared right now, today, and every single year there is less and less habitat as it's cleared to either expand existing coal mines or create even more new coal mines. Koala habitat has been cleared from the very start of the whitefella invasion on this land in order to allow for the farming of livestock or the crops that we need to grow to feed those livestock. So this means that all three main causes of climate change are threatening koalas directly. Land is cleared for the coal mines that are giving us the fossil fuels we're burning. The forests are being cleared for those reasons and for housing and all of the farming of livestock that happens over huge expanses of land in Australia are all creating a big vicious cycle of climate change that keeps compounding. Now, this means that it's not just the koalas that are being threatened by all of this, but climate change is threatening the survival of most of the species on the planet today, and that includes us. The koala, therefore, becomes a very important indicator species to watch closely. And what does this mean? It means that they can be watched to understand and measure the health or the lack of health of the ecosystem that they're a part of. Ecosystems are all about balance. There is literally nothing as beautiful as a forest that is in balance. A forest in balance will have a lot of biodiversity, and this includes both the flora and the fauna. I've heard some suggestions of ideas like taking the seed just for the primary koala food trees and making big monoculture or narrow culture plantations in other areas or even in other countries. And once they've grown, koalas could be brought there and they could be put in them and they would live there because they've grown their food for them. But this misses this really critical point. Koalas are part of a rich ecosystem. A monoculture forest or a narrow diversity forest would actually become a project that would require a huge amount of human intervention constantly to maintain it. And the koala would be living in isolation rather than living as part of a community that it belongs in. That forest would also always be at a certain amount of extra risk because of the lack of biodiversity. So, for example, if a disease that attacks just one particular species of tree got in there, then the whole system could suddenly be wiped out. This is one of the reasons that forests with high biodiversity actually have an increased chance of surviving through extreme climate changes and events, and have an increased ability to capture carbon, which is one of the things that is going to combat climate change. Forests help stabilise the climate through the provision of shade, which is such a simple thing. That provision of shade helps to reduce the temperature, and if you don't believe me, I challenge you. Just walk out into an open field or say stand in the middle of a car parking lot for 15 minutes in the middle of the day in the summer. Make yourself stand there and then turn and walk into a forest. Now, before you go right into the forest, just stand under the first tree of the forest and feel the change for a couple of minutes and then walk in right under the canopy. Not only will you be cooler, but there'll be more water available in the air because the leaves of the trees actually draw in heat and then use evaporative cooling to reduce the temperature. So this means that the denser the forest is, the cooler the forest is, or the more stable the temperature in the forest is. Even in somewhere like the Amazon, where you are right up near the equator, it is way cooler inside a forest than it would be if that forest were cut down and you're just standing on the equator. It's quite fascinating if you stop for a minute to think about how complex the problems are and yet how simple they are at the same time. I mean, here's the equation. Trees equal a stable climate. Pretty simple. We are being driven more and more towards high consumerism, single use of things in this world, feeling that we must constantly have more, throw it out, have more. And the more fossil fuels we remove and burn, the more carbon there is in the air and the less forest there is to deal with the carbon. In other words, a vicious cycle is in effect, and only we can change it because we are the ones that are causing it. One of the keys to stopping the destruction of any more koala habitat is for us as a nation and all around the world to refuse to create or expand coal mines, natural gas fracking, and further livestock farming. Now, this means that we need to think differently about how we live, about how much energy we are using, about how we produce our food and what we eat, and also how much stuff we collect, consume, throw away, and collect again. There are lots of ways we as a people can put pressure on the government to change what they're approving, because every time we are consuming all of that stuff, we're basically giving permission for our koalas to be driven to extinction. Okay, that is our top reason to save koalas. We can impact climate change if we are saving our koalas. I think that's a pretty amazingly well thought out, great reason to save koalas. If we're going to save them for selfish reasons, let's save them because it's going to save us as well. Now, there's 9 more reasons, and I've got lots of other little spin-off videos I'm going to work on during 2025 that has come out of all of this. So there's lots more great stuff coming your way, but you've made it to the end of another Koala Gardens video. So would you stop and write in the comments below for me, saving koalas will slow climate change. Thank you so much for watching. This has been a pleasure to put this one together. There's lots more coming. And if you want to support Koala Gardens in another way, how about every time you need a new hat or a t-shirt or a pair of socks, look, just about anything, hop over to my Redbubble store and have a look at all the gorgeous designs that I've got there and see if there's not something that would be the perfect thing for you, or maybe for a gift for someone else.